This device will give me access to any network. I walk in, plug in Ethernet or Wi-Fi, walk away, and I'm in. It's my network now. And no, it's not VPN. We'll talk more about that, but first, why are we doing this? 2 reasons. Number 1, I am kind of the unofficial IT guy for my church now. Being in tech, that happens. A lot. In almost every situation, my parents, my friends, parents' friends, you can try and escape the help desk, it'll always find you. And let me tell you, troubleshooting their issues, especially networking, massive pain. So here's what I'm thinking. If I'm gonna be their IT guy, I'm gonna do it well. I'm gonna take control. I'll need full access to their networks. I'm not playing around anymore. You want support, you're gonna get it. Now, reason number 2 would be for pen testing. Think about this. You drop this device in any network, and you suddenly have access to everything. Not just that, it'll tell you what network it's on. You don't have to already know that. It'll share this device's IP address with you, and you can remote into this device and do stuff on that network. If that doesn't get you excited about this, drink more coffee, come back and see me, and let's do this. Okay, so here's the mission, and we're gonna do this together. I need remote access to my church, which as I say that just sounds kind of fun. We'll configure this, a Raspberry Pi. This is a 4, it can be really anything, 5, 3, 0. It can be a NAS, computer, laptop, whatever you have, it'll probably work. It just needs to be something that we can place inside this network. And something like this is all you'll need. And I wasn't kidding, we'll drive up, plug it in, power it up, and then leave. And hopefully when I get back to the studio, I'll be able to see what network it's on, what IP address that device has, and I'll have full access to that network, being able to do whatever I want. Run Nmap scans, do some lateral movement, get access to other stuff. Not for hacking, unless you want to do that. Ethically, of course. Don't you dare hack anyone
without permission.
And so I can, have support for the church. An added bonus is I'll be able to, from my studio and my data center, not only will me as a client be able to access my church's network, but I can give access to machines, to apps, to programs, to connect to this church network and monitor it. And again, this is not VPN, it's so much better. But then what is it? It's Twingate, a zero trust network access solution. What does that mean? It means magic. It's free for up to 5 users. It's wicked fast to set up, and it just works. Like, you don't have to worry about firewall or CGNAT or any kind of weird networking issues. You plug it in and you leave. Oh, and by the way, you may not be new to Twingate, but I am gonna be showing you something new with this. A Python script using their API that will tell me whatever network my device ends up in. I'll show you that here in a moment. Now, I've been using Twingate for a long time in my business. Tried and tested, I love it. They're also the sponsor of this video, and they've been sponsoring my channel for a minute. I'm proud to partner with a product and company that I trust and use every day. Enough talking, let's get it set up. Check the link below or go out to twingate.com yourself with your own typing fingers, and you're about to be amazed at how fast this is. We'll click on sign in at the top right. We're setting up a new account, so we'll click on create a new Twingate network. Put in your email address. How do you plan to use it? At home. And let's get started. I'll call it a home lab. How'd I hear about it? Let's say other, type in NetworkChuck. All of you, do this now. I'm just kidding, I don't care what you pick. But if I had to care, and you want me to choose for you, this one, continue. So now we're at the point where it's going to create our Twingate network. You can change the name if you want. I like this one, Reach. It's the name of my church. And now I'll click go to my network, and we'll choose a sign-in method. And they have an identity provider for pretty much anything, pick your poison. I'm gonna go with Google. Building my network, and we're almost done. Little coffee break. By the way, have you hacked the YouTube algorithm today? Let's make sure you do. Hit that like button, notification bell, comment, subscribe. You gotta hack YouTube today, ethically, of course. I haven't said that in a while, felt good. Anyways, let's start the setup. You know what? I wanna skip all this. We can do all this later. I'll click on skip to admin console. Now just so you know, right here is your network. It lives in the cloud. Twingate handles it for you. And the whole point of this is so I can access a remote network. Let's configure one right now. Click on that, remote networks. And then we'll add a remote network by clicking on the plus remote network button. Location, it's going to be on premise. And we'll call it whatever we want. I'm gonna call it the church. And add remote network. So we've created the remote network for my church. But how do I get to it? It's with these right here, connectors. That makes sense, right? A connector is gonna connect us to this remote network. Let's jump into this config right now and make one happen. I'll click on the church, and our next step is going to be deploying a connector. Now, what exactly is that? It's gonna be this device here, the Raspberry Pi or whatever device you have. Twingate software operating as a connector will live on this device inside the network you want to access. So real quick, before you click on deploy connector, make sure your device is ready to go. So for me, I'm going to take out the SD card and reflash it. And I'll walk you through that real quick. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, perfect, 4, 5, 3, 0, whatever. Walk with me real quick. We're gonna take our SD card, put it into an SD card reader. So close up and pop it into my computer. I'll be right back. Now we're going to flash it or write a new operating system to that SD card using a tool called the Raspberry Pi Imager. You can download it from the internet. I'll have it linked below somewhere. Choose your device. Again, I have the Raspberry Pi 4. Choose your OS. I want a GUI that I can remote into with VNC, so I'm gonna do the Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit right here. Choose our storage, make sure you choose wisely. Don't overwrite something important like that guy right there. That has like some pictures for the church actually. I can't delete that. And then we'll click on next. Now here we have a chance to kind of pre-bake our Raspberry Pi. We'll click on edit settings. We can add things like the name, remote reach, set a username and password, and then you can configure Wi-Fi. Keeping in mind, this will be the Wi-Fi for us right now to pre-configure the Pi before we put it into the remote network. That's all I care about. Click on save. I do want to apply these settings. Click on yes, yes, and perfect time for a coffee break. And mine is done. Continue. I'll grab my SD card. Got it. Plug that sucker back into my Raspberry Pi and try to find a power cable that I lost. I'll be right back.
That one. Knew I had one somewhere.
Now, by the way, we're doing this on a Raspberry Pi. Again, you can do this on pretty much any device it's fully supported. Twingate, when we click on deploy connector, we'll go ahead and do that right now, deploy connector. Look at the options. I think everything is supported except for Windows. And even then you can deploy that on Docker on Windows with WSL. Anyways, I'm gonna give this a moment to connect. And at this point, you could just connect a monitor, keyboard, and watch it come up. I'm gonna wait for an IP address to register on my router, and then I'll connect to that. So I'll jump into Unify real quick and see if we can find him. And there it is, remote reach. I'll grab the IP address, launch my terminal, and get logged in. First thing we always do in Linux is a sudo apt update, updating all our repos, and then we'll go to Twingate once more. For Raspberry Pi, I'm gonna do a Linux-based deployment, so I'll select that. And watch this, it's gonna be so easy. We'll scroll down until we see generate tokens. Twingate is an enterprise class, zero trust network access solution, meaning that it's for big companies. And why I love companies like this is they say, you know what, home lab users, it's free for you guys. Because they know you're gonna love it so much, you'll take it to your company. But tokens, it makes it super secure. If you wanna learn more about how the tokens work, they have documentation, or I've got a video where I talk about it right here. Click on generate tokens. It's gonna make you authenticate once more. Authenticate in the same way you did before. I'm gonna hide mine, but your tokens should be generated. You don't have to worry about them, they're just gonna be sitting there. And they should already be added to this command down here that you're gonna copy. And this is our final step. Click on copy command, just like that. Go back to your terminal and paste that command in. It's gonna look crazy, it's gonna have my keys in it, so I'm gonna hide a lot of this command, and hit enter. It's gonna take care of everything for you, seriously. Take a sip of coffee, you're about to celebrate. And that's it, it's done. How do we know it works? Let's go check Twingate. Actually, it already said, you're good, buddy. Refresh our page real quick just to make sure everything's good. Yes, controller is connected, relay is connected. This is our connector right here, the beige nuthatch. I love their randomly generated names. If we go back to the church, you should always go back to the church. We'll see that we have our on-premise remote network. We've got one connector connected. Yes, you can connect more than one connector to make it redundant. That's awesome. And now the hard part is done. But you do have to make a choice real quick. When you plug in your device into your remote network, whatever it is, are you gonna hardwire it, connect via Ethernet? This is definitely the easier option because you just have to walk in, literally plug it in, and go away. Or are you gonna use Wi-Fi? Now, if you're gonna use Wi-Fi, that obviously means you'll need to know the Wi-Fi connection of the remote network you're connecting to. For most of us, if we're using it for support for our families, parents' house, or a church that we already manage their IT for, you'll probably know the Wi-Fi. Best case scenario though is that you connect via Ethernet because the connection will just be more stable, you don't have to worry about it so much, and 10 times out of 10 you wanna do it that way. But there may be a scenario where you're shipping it to somebody. Maybe your parents and friends or family don't live near you, but they still need tech support. You can pre-configure the Wi-Fi, ship it to them, and all they have to do is open it up, plug it in, boom, you're in. Which is such a cool idea, right? Merry Christmas, I control your network to help you. Now to quickly add Wi-Fi to our Raspberry Pi, we can use this command, nmtui, I'm add a sudo before that, just in case. The network manager, and we'll select edit a connection, and we'll scroll over to the right with our directional arrows and click on add, or not click on, highlight add, hit enter. DSL. InfiniBand? Anyways, we're gonna do Wi-Fi, and you'll put in the Wi-Fi information. You can leave profile name and device just default, don't have to worry about that. For SSID, obviously you'll need to put something here. You'll need to know the SSID and the password for the Wi-Fi. Do I have this for my church? Oh yeah, I found it. Okay, SSID, we'll keep the mode at client. Security, it uses, I should know this, I set it up. It's gonna be WPA2 personal, and then we'll put in password. And that should be all we need. IPv4 config, we'll leave it automatic. We're not gonna need that. Although you could put in the static IP address if you already know the IP address scheme or network of the remote network. You may not know it. Hit OK, and then we'll hit escape and tab over to OK, and that's it. And now that Wi-Fi will be searched for every time it boots up and looks for a Wi-Fi network to connect to. Now, time to drop it off at the church. Let's go. I'm gonna unplug it, grab the power cable, and I'll meet you there. Okay, I'm back. Fingers crossed, we'll have access. Let's test it out. Twingate kicked me out. It's a timeout. That's good. It's good for security. Let's get logged back in. And look at that. Okay, so here we go. It's connected. Our connector, we moved it to a different network, a remote network. It's up. Cool. Now what? Well, at this point, if you didn't already know the network of the remote network, so like the IP address range, you didn't know any hosts there, what are you gonna do? Python script. One thing that's really cool about Twingate, amongst a million things, is they have a pretty killer API. Hey, NetworkChuck from the future here. Just so you know, you don't have to do all this fancy API stuff if you already know the network you're trying to connect to. So for example, if you know that your parent's network is 192.168.1.0/24, and the private IP address of your Raspberry Pi that you manually set is 192.168.1.23, you can go into Twingate and manually add that resource. That's the best way to do it. But if you're like me and you don't know anything, this script using the API will auto-discover that for you, creating a resource based on the IP address, the private IP address of the Raspberry Pi that you had dropped in there. That's it. Now back to me. We're gonna go there right now. So let's go to, I think it's settings, and well, you know, it's right there. We'll meander on over to API. Don't know what an API is? Essentially, Twingate says, here, we have some stuff that you can talk to find out about us. Or not really us, about your networks. You can find out things and you can also change things. What am I talking about? You're about to see. Okay, so first thing we'll do is generate an API token right now. So go ahead and click on that button right there. We'll call this, I don't know, my token, just something. Permission, I'm gonna go everything right now. It will be provisioning a resource, the script. So go ahead and give it everything. Allowed ranges, everything, that's what this means. If you wanna restrict that, you can. Click on generate. Here's my key. You can't see it, I'm not gonna show you. Just make sure you copy that, put it somewhere safe, and then on your computer, this could be Windows, Linux, whatever. As long as you have Python installed, I'm gonna do this on my Ubuntu machine here in WSL. I'll create a new Python script, I'll use nano. I'll call it twingate.py, just like this. And then I'll copy and paste this config, or this script. I'll have all of this below in the description. I'll paste that right in here. Now, a few things you'll want to change. We'll go to the very top here. We gotta custom fit this to your network. First thing is your API URL. This will be the URL of your network. So mine was reach.twingate.com. I'm gonna change that right here. You have no idea how powerful this is, what we're about to do, reach. And then remember that API key we just created like 3 seconds ago? You're gonna put that sucker right here between double quotes. I'm gonna grab mine, paste it right here. And then finally, this field right here, this last thing we have to do, your target network. That's gonna be the network we just created. I forgot what I named mine, so I'm gonna have to look in a second, like right now. What did I call it? Remote networks. Oh, I called it the church. You probably remembered, I didn't. So we'll call it the church. And what's gonna happen here with the script is it's gonna reach out with the Twingate API to our controller, the brain. It's gonna authenticate itself with the API key. This is our key. And then it's going to go, hey, can you tell me the IP address of the connector, both the public IP address and the private IP address, giving us a ton of information about that network. Let's do this. So we'll hit Control X, Y, enter to save, and then with Python, we're gonna run the script. Python 3, twingate.py. Ready, set, please work. Oh, I forgot, there are some prerequisites we have to install. I'm such a dummy. So here's what we'll do real quick. We're gonna create a Python virtual environment. Command will be Python 3-m, specifying module, and we're gonna use the virtual environment module, or the ENV. And we'll call it Twingate something. And that's it. Python virtual environment is like creating a little safe space for us to play around and not mess with anything else. And then we'll activate that environment by typing in source, then Twingate something, our virtual environment /bin/activate. Boom, our Python virtual environment is active. Now we'll install some prereqs real quick. We'll use pip to install, I believe it's gonna be GQL, yes. That might be enough. Let's try and run our script right now. Nope. We need request. Pip install requests. That's another Python module. Got it. Let's try it again. Request.toolbelt. Okay, we're almost there. Request_toolbelt. Install that. Now let's try. Look at it go. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna show it here. At least I won't show the public IP. It found the public IP, and then it found the private IP address right here of our Raspberry Pi, our connector we deployed inside that network. Now, it didn't just find it. It created a resource. If I go to Twingate right now, I'll jump into the church. Let's go. Do you see that? It actually created a few resources. Why did it do that? I'll have to look at my script again. But one of these private IP addresses is our connector. Let's try and connect to it. Now, the way Twingate works is you'll need a client, a Twingate client, to connect to anything. So you'll sign in with your Twingate client. You can install the client on any device. So Windows, Mac, Linux, iPhone, Android, and then you'll use that to sign in and access the resources you have access to. So let's get logged in. I'm gonna download Twingate. I think I already have it installed actually, let me see. Oh, I do. Twingate, there you are. But as you can see here, I could just download it, Twingate for Windows, do the NSI installer if I wanted to. Oh, it downloaded it for me. It's got all the platforms. And now you'll have to switch over to my other monitor because it's looking at my bottom right tray to do this. Once an update. I'm gonna update it real quick. Make sure it all works. Actually, it'll look something like this when you first install it. It'll be reach.twingate.com. I'll join that network right now. It's gonna take me to my second screen over here. I'll get logged in. Notice lots of logging in, lots of authentication. It's very, very secure. Whenever you do something serious like accessing stuff, creating stuff. So now I'm authenticated. So I'm actually connected. Let me just right click my menu here. I'm connected, but it says 0 resources because I have not given myself access to the church. Let's do that right now. So looking at our resources, we have these 2 private IP addresses. Again, I'm not sure why it created 2, maybe just found 2. Oh, you know what I bet it is? I bet it connected to Wi-Fi and the Ethernet. So that's why there's 2. I'm gonna click on 1, and then I can click on add access, and I'll put it in the everyone group. Now notice, by default, it was like, okay, you created the resource, no one's getting access. That's the idea of least privilege, meaning we only give access to people who actually need it. And the default policy is no one needs it unless you explicitly say so. So I'm gonna grant access to everyone, and my user account should be part of the everyone group. If I look at my Twingate client now, oh, there's the one resource. There it is. I'm just gonna copy the address because I know I'm gonna access it via SSH. Let's try it out. SSH NetworkChuck. I'm gonna log into the Raspberry Pi now. It just worked. And I'm inside the Raspberry Pi. How insane is that? It just dropped me into the network. Now I can do things like, okay, install nmap, the network mapper. And while it's installing that, I wanna show you something. This resource, we can actually make it very tight. So for example, maybe I only want users to access this resource on port 22, the SSH port. I can click on edit and I can add port restrictions here. So let's say only port 22, and that's it. I can also do this, add an alias, call it connector.reach.rockwall.local. What did I just do? I created a DNS entry that I can use right now. Let's try it out. So I'm gonna exit, get out of this connection. Port 22 should be open for me. And I'm gonna SSH into connector.reach.rockwall.local. Did you just see that? DNS entry created out of thin air. And the way Twingate treats DNS is so interesting. I have a full video on it here. Let's do an nmap scan. What's my IP address again? So the network is /24. This is the network right here. Let's scan. Now while it's scanning, can we talk a little bit about this? Look at this. If I refresh the screen, I've got activity logs of who's been trying to access this. I can generate a report of who's been accessing this stuff. Over here on the access I granted to people, I can say, you know what, let's set a policy. What does that mean? Well, if we go to policies, I can say any device can access. I can do only trusted devices based on trusted profiles. I can do custom and say, you know what, only Mac users can access this resource. Is that not crazy? You can have minimum OS requirements, saying they have to have hard drive encryption, firewalls enabled. You can really put in some security here. And this is all free for you right now. You can restrict it based on the serial number of the device. This is so neat. Getting back to the network and looking at my resource, I can also restrict it and set expiration. Like, okay, you can access this for 2 hours. That's all you get, buddy. Then you don't have any access anymore. I can auto lock after 30 days. Remove access, of course. So much you can do. And on my team over here, I can simply just add a user, invite email to anyone. I can add them to groups, restrict their access based on so many different things. It's powerful. Now let me see if my Nmap scan worked. Oh, sure did. Look at all this. I think I found a Windows computer. Oh, found the iMac. Oh, that was a printer, iMac, found the router. And for anything I find, all I have to do is just add this as a resource. So for example, the printer here, what ports are open? HTTP. So let's grab this IP address. We'll get into our network. We'll create a resource, call it reach printer. Add the IP address. We'll add an alias, make it really easy, printer.reach rockwall.local. And we'll restrict it to only port 80 and nothing else. And we'll give access to the everyone group. Cool. So now, in theory, I should be able to go out to printer.reach rockwall.local. That's refusing connection. Maybe it just doesn't work. Let me try the IP address. It said port 80 was open. Maybe it was lying to me. What other ports were open? Oh, HTTPS was open too. Let's add that port. We'll update that resource and try that. Oh, there we go. And look at that. Access to the printer. Do you see how crazy powerful this is? So now think about this. For your family, just get a bunch of little devices, Raspberry Pis, any kind of Linux device, whatever, and just drop them off at their houses. Remote support, you got them. You can log into the connector, the Raspberry Pi. You're like, you know what? The network is up. Be quiet, Nana. You put your phone in airplane mode again. That's all that happened. And if you want to get really crazy, Twingate has a way. If I go to team here, notice I have 3 options. We haven't talked about ones. We have users, groups, and then we have services. What is that? Services gives us a way. Let me add one real quick. The service account to monitor. It gives us a way to give an application just one server, like a headless client. It gives it the ability to log into the network and access the resources we give it access to. So I might generate a key, only make it last for a year. I would copy that, give it access to one resource, the printer, make sure it stays up. And then I could install this on like Uptime Kuma. Uptime Kuma could be running inside my network, it could be running inside a cloud instance, and it could access this network without opening up any firewall rules or anything and make sure the printer's up. Man, how cool is that? Let me know if you're gonna do this in the comments. I would love to know. That's Twingate, that's the video. I'll catch you guys next time.